I worry, for example, that people get their science off of random places on the internet.
Neil Degrasse Tyson has been a guest on my show before when I did a podcast called Under the Skin. He is not a scientist, but he's a science educator. Some people say he changed his tune when hit with some Me Too style attacks or inquiries. Depends on what you think of the validity of those particular Me Tooisms, I suppose, for want of a better neologism. Here, Neil Degrasse Tyson is talking about how aggrieved he is that people get their information from sources that are not verified. Often what people mean when they say that is, why don't you just trust me? Why won't you do what I tell you?
Does anything bother you in the last, I don't know, maybe year of presidential elections that makes you think that maybe science is in trouble?
So I worry, for example, that people get their science off of random places on the internet, off of clickbait, rather than looking at what the scientific establishment has discovered for us.
Sure.
So you get someone on there and say, the whole establishment is wrong and I'm right, click here.
Yeah.
That's irresistible.
Yeah, that's what we do on this show all the time. Yeah.
It's irresistible.
It's very effective.
And I'm thinking, no, science doesn't work that way. It works by you get enough observations and
Sure.
data, and if it comes to agreement, that's the new objective truth.
Right.
It's not one lone person that says whatever the hell they want.
Doctor,
Right.
Doctor, so far, I agree with you that science is good and the internet is stupid.
That's pretty incredible, because we are living in a time where only clinical trials that are profitable are being undertaken and only information that is expedient is being released. Let me take the most taboo subject I possibly could, vaccines and autism. When people say there is no evidence to suggest that a link between autism and vaccines, do you think there might be a reluctance to conduct such studies? Ask yourself that question and have a look at our interview with Aaron Siri, and he will talk to you in great depth and explain to you the way that Big Pharma and the clinical trials complex can manage and control information. Of course, I'm not making a claim that there is a link between autism and vaccines, but there's exactly as much information to suggest that there is a link as there is to suggest that there isn't, precisely because no one wants to undertake clinical trials that cost Pfizer and Merck money. And when you look at their model of regulation and their methods and means of funding, it becomes clear why that might be. Now, in advocating for censorship, because that's ultimately where that conversation leads there, when people say there's too much misinformation on the internet, they're saying the information on the internet is a problem and someone should have the authority to control it. Well, let me ask you right now, and let me know in the comments and chat, who do you think should have the authority to decide what information you get and what information you don't get? Should it be the New York Times, who are telling you that we should not be reporting on or discussing the fact that Russia, the world's biggest nuclear superpower, are potentially being provoked? What is misinformation when it comes to the pandemic era and adverse and yellow card events that were like, or at least showed a correlation between taking certain medications and symptoms and side effects? Who do you trust to be in charge of the information? Now, what's fantastic when you dig deeper into this is you'll find that from an atheistic or materialistic perspective, it's perfectly rational to make human intelligence the apex of all of our hierarchical systems, and therefore the ultimate authority, and therefore the adjudicator and utilizer of justice. If there is no sublime or divine power, if there is no supreme intelligence, then we are the supreme intelligence. And the authority I just discussed, we can delegate that authority or grant that authority to whoever the establishment or system decides is worthy of it. So who gets to censor your information? The government will tell you who's going to censor your information. Who tells you whether or not a medicine is safe? The government will decide whether or not a medicine is safe. Who decides whether or not there should be a war or shouldn't be a war, or whether a war should be escalated? The government will tell you. By getting rid of God, by declaring there is no God, you don't get rid of authority and power, you just grant it I would say, to the devil himself. The devil in the form of human hubris and human superciliousness. And you know it when you see it. You know when you see a lack of humility. You know when you see the stripping away of doubt and the kind of certainty that comes from, you have to be 6 feet apart. You have to wear a mask. Is there any science for 6 feet apart? No. Is there any science for masks? No. You have to take this medication. Is there been any trials on clinical transmission? No. Clinical trials, on transmission. No. We begin to understand that when they mean science, they mean scientism, a new God and a new dogma. Of course it has its advocates in public spaces to coat it in soft power, to lubricate it, to make the penetration of their power less disruptive as it enters you. But there is only one power that we should be yielding to. And it's not for me to tell you what that power is. It's not for anyone to tell you what that power is. But if you become awakened, you will be less likely to tolerate their corrupt, institutionalized, hubristic power. And when people go on and say, like, I guess they were joking about the results of the election, were they? And Neil deGrasse Tyson, like, oh no, the craziness. People saying, anti-vaxxers. Oh, Bobby Kennedy. Extraordinary. Extraordinary you will know them by their fruits. You will know them by their fruits. You will sense it by what it flows out of them. You will see what their agenda is and what is within them. So if people are talking about, I saw a brilliant post on X when someone was talking about some new potential environmental disaster, and like the first post underneath it was, is there a tax we can pay for that? They will always be attempting to justify and legitimize further control. That's the important thing. Whether, you can debate, discuss, and discern for yourself whether climate change is real and is caused by anthropomorphic or anthropological activity. You can make that decision for yourself. But one thing to look at is, are the measures suggested punitive towards large corporations, nations, and powerful institutions? Or do they grant further authority to governments to legitimately exert further taxes or measures of social control over ordinary civilians? If it is the latter, you know that was the agenda. And we are going to be talking about martial law a little later in the show. Let me know in the comments and the chat what you think about that Neil deGrasse Tyson moment there and the way that it was covered. If you're watching this anywhere other than Rumble, then, you get off that platform and get onto Rumble, because we can speak freely here, as has been demonstrated by the New York Times Chris Pavlovsky story. Do you know what Donald Trump's big comeback means for the United States, beyond the obvious radical changes? His return definitely means a shift towards a more crypto-friendly landscape. You'll have seen the way crypto is responding, right? Now is the moment to find ways to dive into crypto on your terms, and guess what? There's a way to do it. Go Mining is redefining how people earn Bitcoin. With their platform, you don't need to buy and set up expensive equipment. Instead, you can own a digital miner that represents a share of real mining power. It's essentially buying your piece of the Bitcoin mining pie, but without the stress of setting up rigs, handling maintenance, or paying those soaring electricity bills. And you can start with just $25 actually. Here's what's even cooler. Go Mining and Stay Free are teaming up for a special offer. The first 50 people who buy $100 worth of miner using the code Stay Free, all caps, will receive an exclusive digital miner from Stay Free as a gift. Once you own one, you can upgrade it to earn more rewards. This ain't just an NFT that sits around looking pretty. It's a real income generating asset that you can hold, grow, or sell if you decide it's time to move on. So if you're ready to dip into Bitcoin mining, check out Go Mining. Use the code Stay Free, all caps, for a 5% discount at checkout. But hurry, that code is only valid for the next 10 days.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.